Hi everyone, so today we're going to have a look at a series on how to make little gadgets to help you with your crafting. Now a gadget is simply something that makes your life easier. Okay, so now this is a sheet of flexible plastic that I got off a file cover, and to make it easier for you to see on the video, I've actually stuck on a piece of card on the back so that it doesn't disappear when I put it down on my table. So that's always a good thing when you're working with see-through items. So on the back, if we turn it round, I have marked off strips. Now I've put them in centimetres, but it really doesn't matter. You do them for what size you wish. So this is 2 centimetres, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. Okay. Now, so I can use up the whole sheet, I've also put squares on here of 5 centimetres, 6 centimetres, 7 centimetres, and 8 centimetres. Now, if you're working in inches, this would be 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2 inches, or something similar. So I've marked it out. I've rubbed out bits where I've changed my mind. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer. You can do it with a knife or whatever you have. Scissors, but you need to be accurate. And I'm going to line up my lines here and trim down carefully. Okay, so there is my 2 centimetre one, and make sure they're reasonably accurate. Just stand up. Right, that one won't go through, so I'm going to move it over, and hopefully my head didn't come in too much there. Let's come off, and my last one, here we go. So I'm going to put these back on, and I'm going to finish trimming this off here. Make sure I line it up straight so I don't get any nasty burrs on it. Now, I'm coming back to this bit, and when I look, that is a nice clean line that comes right through. So I'm going to do that as my first cut. There we go. Right, and I'm just going to work my way around. Cutting off my shapes. We'll look at how we'll use these through the video. I'm going to keep the offcuts. You can hear my church bells in the background. So I'm keeping all those offcuts. If you're not putting a piece of paper on the background, you may need to write in permanent marker. Right, so let's have a look what I've got here. So if we pile those up, I can see I have got some nice borders that if I want to do matting and layering, this is a quick guide to put on my card and use. Okay, I've got my measurements on the back, 8, 7, 6, 5. So put those to one side. These are nice strips. There we go, that way around. So I now have 4, 3.5, 3, 2.5, 2. Okay, so I've got a nice selection. Now let's get to the exciting bit of how we use them. Okay, so I have collected together a pad of 6x6 or 15 centimetre patterned and plain papers. I've got some 15 centimetre cards, and I've got some pieces of gold and silver which we can use when we see what we're creating. Okay, I've also got a box of random decoupage bits that I can dip into. So here I have one that was on the top, and it's a couple of herons, so I've got greens and I've got blues. Okay, so I'm going to pop that just up there. I'll try and bring it back in, and we're going to take one card. Just going to check that it's a nice fold, and I'm going to flick through. Now these are nice papers. They've got a background on it that matches the front, tones with the front. I'm going to go for that one, I think. So I've got pale blue on that side and a bit of pattern on there. Now I think that the pale blue would be a beautiful background. Okay, so I'm going to chop this one now, and I'm going to chop it so that I can put on a little border. So I'm going okay, so I'm just going to reduce it down a little bit. I'm not particularly bothered about the measurement. I just want to be able to put a little bit of, I think, silver as its blues. There we go, so we're going on there. I always try and head for the centre of the paper, because I'm going to use fancy scissors, and fancy scissors are going to need something to hang on to. So I'll just prepare this. People tend to think that their fancy scissors aren't working right. Okay, I will show you why in a minute. There we go, so aim for the middle. Right, now let's take the fancy scissors. I'm going to find one with, that's a scallop one. It's a bit bigger scallop. Right, if I try and cut, let's see. Right, if I try and cut a little bit, the chances of your scissors shredding the end, right, are quite high. So let's see. Right, so here you can see the cut hasn't gone through right. That's not the fault of the scissors. Right, if I try and nibble a bit off here, I'll get this ragged piece here. Right. When you cut with fancy scissors, you need to be able to have this amount of width. Right, if I can turn that over, you need that amount of width for the scissors to hold on to. So I've left a good portion all the way round. And I'm going to start with a half scallop and cut all the way through. There is no snagging whatsoever because the scissors have got a nice amount of card to hold on to. So I'm going to go all the way round. Never go to the end of your scissors. Right, always stop short, move your scissors and start again. So, not once have I had any problem with the scissor cutting. You'll see in a minute when I put it on a background. Right, let's put this on the background, and there is no snagging whatsoever around the edge. It's perfect. Okay, right, so I'm going to go and stick that down now on my card. I've now got a nice white border all the way around my card. Make sure it's opening the right way, and that is upright. Now bring in these. That is beautiful. Right, so up until now we haven't used any of our little gadgets. So I'm going to take the 2.5. No, I've got a 2. So I'm going to take the 2, and I'm going to take, I know there's a darker blue in here. Or maybe we'll go green. Let's go green. Darker green might be better. Okay, it's got a nice piece on the background as well. So I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to go on the back and measure up there. Because I've used the plasticky bit off a file, I can now go and cut down through, and I've got an accurate 2 centimetre piece. So I'm going to place that on there. Right. I now want to put a little border, so I'm going to use my 2.5, place it onto there, and I'm going to cut a 2.5 centimetre piece. Don't forget you can use whatever measurements you wish. And I'm going to take this one, and I can place this now on top of there, and I've got perfect borders. So I'm going to take that down there. This is now a piece that I could write a sentiment on. So place it onto there. There, I'm not worried about the length at the moment. And I'm then going to bring in this one, and I'm going to cut my 3 centimetre. So let's just check. This is my 3. So we've used 2 centimetres, 2.5. This is my 3. So again, I'm going to put it onto there, line it up, I'm going to prepare this back piece on there, and then this was my decorative piece. Don't forget I haven't measured the length because I know it's going to be at least 6 inches or 15 centimetres. Now I'm going to come in with that one so I've now got perfect matte and layers there. So let's bring in my card, and I'm going to now cut the ends. So I'm going to trim the end that way so I can put it onto the edge there, and I'll take my pencil and just mark that. This is what is called designing as you go. Right? Nobody's having to give you all the correct measurements. You go with what you have at home. Work it. Now I'm going to just turn that way because I can see my leaves are growing up that way. So I pop that onto there. Now I'm just going to lay that there for a moment because I want to show you that you can bring in things like this one. This is the 2 centimetre. If I wanted to, I could place that along the bottom and use that. In fact, I think we will do that. I can use that as my placement guide. Take it away and you've got it perfectly level. Now I think we're going to bring that one in there, and I'll go with a wet glue on this one because there's quite a few little bits that I want stuck down. Use what you've got at home. It doesn't need any special glue or anything. Right, so we're now going to place that onto there. Now I got the lovely area here for a sentiment, and I'm just going to add a peel-off greeting there, but you can use die cuts or whatever. Right, so I've got some happy birthday peel-offs. And another tip that I like to do is when you start your peel-offs, I like to peel the backing off so it just leaves the words behind. Now I do use a product called Scotch Magic, but any sellotape will work. This one tends to be kind to the background paper, but just if you've got ordinary sellotape, just take some of the tack off on a jumper or wherever, place it on and rub it down. Now I can just gently peel this away now and get that. The peel off has now come onto my piece. The worst one to try and do ordinary is congratulations, because there's not a lot holding it together. I can now place this on here. I can see it's in the right place, and I just rub down, peel up the corner, and keeping it low to the card, I'm just going to pull back, and there it is, perfectly positioned. Now I can use that piece over and over again until it loses its tack, and I'm just going to pull that bit out of there. So this video is full of little helpful hints. Now that is a beautiful card. This is perfectly aligned, which would have been difficult because it's actually two waves going through. It's beautifully aligned, lovely banner across the middle, and here is our simple decoupage. That actually came as a set of 3 pieces that would have piled up on one another, but I've gone for just one piece of it because I've used the other 2 herons on something else. Okay, so there is our card number 1, and we're going to come back and use the little gadgets we've made on another card. Right, we're going to have a look now at another card. I seem to have gone with the water wildlife, so here we've got a duck that's flying, and we're going to go with the green again and the blue. So we're going to take a blue. I think we'll go for the lighter green this time. Okay, so I've got a couple of pieces, one cut with blue and one cut the same size with the green. So I'm going to use the green, I think, first, and put a little bit of water on the bottom. So I have 2.5, 2, an assortment. So what if I want to join say a 4 and a 2 together? So I can place my 4 on there. So I will have now 4 and 2 will make 6. So I don't need to have every measurement. Those will do fine because I can join them all together. Now I'm going to take this one. It's a shame to cover up the pretty patterns, but that's fine. Go for silver again, and I want a plain border on this one. Straighten that one up a fraction. So I'm going to fix that one onto there. I could change the greens and the blues round. It'd be fine. So. I've now got the smallest of borders all the way around. That's fine. And I'm going to just trim that one off. Just make sure that's the opening. Yes. So there's my card prepared. This is the piece that I cut there, and I'm going to place that on so it's lined up with the bottom. So this is the blue water going in. So this time we haven't used it to do a banner, we've used it to measure up the water onto there. This one is then going to go onto there. There he is. So that just using these strips, you can cut with confidence your different pieces. Now, what I'm going to do now is to, I think, put a strip over there, which will be a fishtail. So I'm going to go onto there, down, right. Okay, so now that is what I cut that with. I am going to turn this round now, put it at an angle, and I can now mark where I want to cut my fishtail. Scrap there. So this is my fishtail on here. Got a little bit there. And I'm now going to place this onto my silver. Yeah. And I'm simply going to cut a small, minuscule edge of silver. Forget about this for the moment. Give yourself plenty of room. Come back. So I've got top and bottom a minuscule bit, and now I'm going to take this, cut into the corner there, and cut into the corner there. I've got a tiny bit of feathering on there. I'm going to chop that off because I know I've got plenty on there, and I'll decide now how big I want my fishtail to be. That is going to go onto there. Could have it down to there. I think that might look better. Okay, so that's that. And I'm just going to see. No, I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so that matches up to there. And there is card number 2. So we can go and add a peel-off greeting to that. Right. So that is card number 1 and card number 2. Totally different, but all using strips that we've cut. Okay. Now we're going to just take a look. There are so many other things we can do with that, but we're going to take a look at our squares. Okay. So let's take the biggest one, and I'm going to bring in my next card here, and I can place that onto there to cut an aperture. So I'm going to open the card so that any marks that I've got are on the inside. So I can do this. Now if I want to use this to line up, I can line that up with that, line that up with that, and that has given me a guide to where my aperture is going. Okay, so I don't mind cutting my apertures by hand, but what I like to do is to take my knife and just cut the corners by hand first. So I get nice, neat finish at the corners. There's no chance then of overrunning when you're cutting. So I place my ruler on, and you can feel when you get to the other corner. Pop this out. If there's any little hairs that haven't quite cut, go back and do them. Don't try and pull the aperture out. Yep. That is now a perfect square that you can use elsewhere. We might do that later. Here is my perfect aperture. Okay, and if I now take my number 7 centimetre one, and I'm going to pop that into there. This doesn't matter quite so much. I can't draw on the back, it's too fussy. Positioning here doesn't matter quite so much, but I'm then going to simply go round there. Yep, I can bring in my ruler . I need a new blade. I've got a little bit where my blade snagged. There we go. Right, so I've now used my 7cm one, and I'm going to place this so I've got a double in surround. Okay, so I'm going to just see if that, right. Let's trim this down. So I can just move this around. So now I have a mess. So now I have my 8cm aperture. I've cut a piece of the same paper, just the reverse side, and I'm going to put double-sided tape here. This is finger lift, so I'm trying to hang it over the edge a bit so that my adhesive is quite near the edge. Place that on there. I will put an insert to cover this, but there is my lovely pattern showing through. And we're then going to take this my narrow strip, and I've got some spare blue, so I'm going to cut a 2.5. We'll go for this one. Now going to cut a strip on there. I'm going to have a little sentiment strip along the bottom. And I think I'm just going to go with a gold, I think, on this one. Always be prepared to change your mind. Take my fancy scissors. It's unusual to put blue and gold together, but I think on this one it will work. So now I'm going to have a strip going across there. Now usually I design so that I know what my main picture is. This time I've gone the other way round because I wanted to use these pretty papers. So I'm going to see now what I've got here. try and go away from... I don't know, I like that. I was going to go away from the water theme, but let's see what we have in here. So, would make a nice anniversary card, but I think I just want to have the single one there, and we're coming in with the glue again. That one on there, and I'd like to extend that, so I bring in this would have piled onto there. I want to bring that in, and I'm just breaking the corner there so it goes into the aperture. So pretty card, very simple, but using the pieces we've got from the that we did for apertures. And lastly, let's just look at how we can use them. So that's 5, 6. So what if I take a 6 there, and there. Now let's take this one, which is a 5, and I think we're going to do something with a pretty pattern. We'll go for that one, place that one onto there, we're going to stick this onto there. And we now have perfect matten layers. So what if I now take 7, which is the next one up, and let's turn this one around. This one. Stick this one on. So you don't have to worry about measurements. You know that you've got several squares that will pile up on one another. There's the next one. And, ooh, do you remember at the beginning, or the previous card, where we cut this white border, one aperture out? I'm going to use that. So always using what you've got around. going to trim it's slightly feathered. I didn't like that. So now we have that, and I'm going back onto the gold, and I want to do a fancy edge. So remember, we need a nice border left for our scissors to hang on to, and I can get that out of there. Once you've lined up, you can just cut away, and I'm putting the points of my scissors down the side of the white, so I don't have to worry, am I getting a straight line, because I know I will do. Right, so let's bring in another card. This is looking nice. Just make sure it's nice and flat. Make sure my flowers are growing up the right way. And this we've just used scraps. We've now got a beautiful bit on here, and I'm just going to see what I can find in the box. Ooh, right. Okay, some interesting flowers and the feathers. So let's open that one and see what we have here. I think that one's possibly a bit too big. So I think we're coming in with that. Coming right to the bottom so I don't cover too much of this. And I have another flower here which I'm just going to add. I rarely pile up decoupage on top of one another. I tend to spread it. So another card. So we've used the squares to chop out an aperture. We've used the squares to pile up mat and layer. We've used our strips to cut a banner. Okay, and we've used the smaller strip to line up where we put our banner. And we've used our strips to cut a fishtail, and we've used our strips to cut a 2-portion background. Okay. So there are hundreds and hundreds of ways that you can use these strips, but just keep them in your craft stash and always go back to them. Have fun crafting. God bless you all.